Hello, today we are going to learn Beat It by Michael Jackson. Then what we're going to do is progressively make it more difficult. Now the idea behind this is that it's going to help with various techniques and build up finger strength using a simple pattern. So what we're going to do is learn how to play it first, that would help. Right, so what we're going to do is start on the low E string on the 5th fret. Then we're going to go up to 7, then 8. So what we're going to do is start off with our index finger, then go to ring finger, then little finger. And I've got the tab there so you can actually see what I'm doing, because I know it can be a bit difficult to see what people are doing when they're playing, so I always think it's useful to have the tab there. Right, so now we've got that, what we're going to do is go down to the 5th fret on the D string, just here. Skipping the A string and going to D. Then we're going to go back up to the A string on the 7th fret. And that is the first part. Then we want to do the second bit that goes. That is pretty easy. All we're going to do is the 7th note again. And then we play it again and slide up to 9. Then we go back down to 7. Then we do 2 notes on 5. And that is the pattern we're going to be using. Now, we're going to make it a bit more difficult by adding in the exact same pattern from the 5th fret that we just learnt, but we're just going to move it down to the 3rd fret. Exact same pattern, but what we're doing is we're building up strength in the fingers and sort of getting coordinated, moving up and down the few strings, but we're also going to get a bit of strength by getting used to moving up, down and up at the fretboard. You can do it either way. You can start at 3 if you want and then go up to 5th, or you can go 5th to 3, but I've just tabbed it that way because I can't work out which one actually sounds better, so it doesn't really matter. So then we're going to go down to 3. Basically, you're just going to carry on doing that until you're comfortable with it. This shouldn't take a massively long time if you're, reasonably good. If you're not, there's a good place to start because it's got a little bit of, I wouldn't say everything, but it's got a few things. You've got the use of the pinky finger, that's the most painful finger to build strength up in. So you've got a use of that, and then you get used to sort of skipping a string and going down and up. And then you've got a little slide in there with your ring finger that is also, when you start off, a bit of a pain to get some strength in there. So I find the best way to do it is doing that, and then when you got your ring finger, using that to slide up, and then going back, descending, is using the index finger. But what I do is I alternate fingers, because again, I know that my weakest finger, and most players' weakest finger, is their little finger. So what I do is this tab, this song, I practice, but I alternate the fingers that I come back up on. So instead of doing and then going on my ring finger, I go on my little finger instead and do the slide with that. Then when I do the descending, I don't go with my index finger because it's already strong enough, I suppose. So I go back on the ring finger because that's just a bit awkward, and then go on the ring finger, index finger. Now the point of that is obviously to build up the strength from going from your little finger to your ring finger. You know, it's kind of like Thunderstruck, where you're doing the sort of tapping to build up the strength of your little finger. It's the same sort of thing, but this is probably easier to do and less boring. There's a lot more going on because, you know, Thunderstruck's, I can't even remember it, something like that. It's just like literally two or three notes, whereas this, there's a bit more going on, and everyone loves Beat It, so happy days. Now what I do then is the alternate fingers I do moving up and down from the 5th to the 3rd fret. So I'm doing obviously the same pattern, but you see I've done that the comfortable way. So when I go down to the 3rd, instead of doing it the same way, I'll make sure that I'll do it in a different way. So I'll do it with the 3rd pinky finger, and then I'll go back on like middle finger. But I mean, none of that's really necessary. It is if you want to build up strength, and I find this is a good way of doing it because it's an easy pattern, and yeah, you can just pick any thing. We could call them problem areas, weak areas of your fingers, and then just practice doing the pattern there, and then doing it up here. Right, so the next like sort of evolution of this is doing the same thing, but instead of going down to the 5th on D, we're going to go to G instead. I'll put the tab up there as well, so you can see what's happening. All we're doing is moving the exact same pattern that we'd play on D, and just moving it down to G. The evolution of that is to do the same thing, introducing the new way of doing it, and then going back to the 3rd fret, but doing it without moving it up. So what we're doing here is we're just making it a bit more confusing, but it's making your fingers move about the fretboard a bit more. And I don't think it doesn't sound very nice going down. It doesn't quite sound right, probably. But yeah, so practice doing that, because that's a good way of and then you could do this alternating your fingers as well, just to make it a little bit harder, and that helps sort of train your memory, your muscle memory of doing things, because obviously when you're playing different things, you'll be moving up and down the fretboard, but you'll be doing different notes, and it's all about sort of technique and the best way of doing it. And although alternating our fingers here isn't the best technique to play the song, it's still building up that strength and dexterity. And you can even isolate a finger, so when you go back up to the 7th, you could just do it all with your any finger that you want. There we go. I got confused that I was isolating a finger, but you see what I mean. You can just muck about with it as much as you like. I've got into the habit now of doing that because I really don't like doing that. It's like I said, it's not a strength area of mine, and for a lot of, like, I would say kind of like an intermediate level. So that's a good way of building that up, and practice going again up, down and up the fretboard, same pattern, and then also skipping, going down there, going back there, and then alternating back to doing the D. And I played it wrong. So the next evolution of this, to make it even harder, I did this much better last night, but I haven't had a lot of sleep, so that's my excuse, is to do it all without a plectrum or picking any strings. So it's just using all hammer-ons. I don't know if the camera is going to pick that. The microphone on the camera is going to pick that up. Now, the pain that I found with this is doing the hammer-ons and going down to here. See, it's that movement there, from there to there, I'm not used to. So it's a good exercise to build that up. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything to do with guitar is doing uncomfortable things. So I found, obviously, doing the most basic, playing the riff, is really easy. But doing all of these sort of extensions on it, and like sort of changing what you're doing with your fingers, the positioning, going to G and then D, as well as alternating your fingers, it gets quite complicated quite quickly. And as well as doing the hammer-ons as well. And I mean, you can do that with different fingers as well. And that's basically the whole exercise that I came up with. So it starts off very easy, and then it just incrementally gets more difficult, and you can sort of isolate and identify weak areas. Like, I know a while ago I wasn't too good at hammering on. And this exercise really helps to build up that strength of each finger, especially, again, ring finger and pinky. And eventually, I found the more complicated ways of doing it, like that bastard, helped build up the speed of doing the more basic. Pattern. So, I mean, I think that is pretty much everything that I come up with. So, I'm going to put the tab up so you can basically read through it and see what we're doing each time. I always find it's really helpful having the tab while someone's playing, because people tend to go way too fast. I've probably gone way too fast. Because I sort of done no preparation for this, I kind of come up with the idea and thought, let's just bang it out, really. So the tab's going to be up there, so you can read it and sort of follow along and make it as difficult as you like. But it's a nice little practice that you can do for sort of 10 minutes and just like isolate an area once you've found out what you're not good at. So there's, for example, there's no point me playing the main bit, plucking it, because I can already do that. But I know, that's my weak area, and doing that with the ring finger. So that's when I think of doing this exercise, that's what I will focus on, because that's what's going to give me the most reward. I'm not going to get any reward from doing the main riff and then going back. So that's basically what you should do with the exercise. I thought it was pretty good, and I like the song as well.